Australia's population levels are significantly increasing as capital cities become more and more congested. Indeed, we're growing at double the rate of most other developed countries, and the majority of that growth is immigration. Just yesterday, we heard about a report calling on the government to introduce a CBD congestion tax, which would see drivers levied immediately when it's introduced to bring down the number of people coming into our cities. Now, the Morrison government promised a population plan at the last election. They've appointed the first federal population minister, and last week they set up a new population centre. Well, what does it all mean? And will we see a plan? And a plan with a number about how big they want Australia to get. Joining me now is the Minister for Population, but also Cities and Urban Infrastructure as well, Alan Tudge. Great to have you on the show, Minister. I'm a fan of the fact that you give substantial speeches. There seems to be policy depth in a lot of your material. I don't always agree with it, but you seem to be doing the grunt work, which is, I'm a hard marker. But you need to convince me tonight that putting this population centre inside Treasury, which is the biggest proponents in Canberra for a big Australia that I have ever seen in 16 years, they all reside in Treasury. Tell me that's a good thing and why.
Well, the population portfolio is inside of Treasury, and that was the decision of the Prime Minister over a year ago when he established it. And last week we launched the Population Centre, which is really the main repository of information, of data and analysis inside the federal government, and it will be based inside of Treasury. Now, Treasury is renowned for having very good analysts, for being very good on the data and being good at projections. And of course, population is a big driver of our economic growth. I mean, you studied economics, Peter. It's one of your 3 Ps of economic growth: population, participation, productivity. And it doesn't just impact on the population number, but of course our settings also assist with participation and also assist with productivity as well. So it is an economic driver, but we've got to have a balanced approach, and that's what we're doing.
Okay, but if it's just going to be a repository of data collection and being better at forecasting than perhaps the ABS is, which is always sort of collecting data and telling us where we're at, if the aim is to be able to set some sort of path forward, well, you've got to convince me that the government's serious about a population number that's realistic in congestion terms in schools and hospitals and roads, rather than the zealots inside Treasury, mate, who always want a big Australia because it's like a Ponzi scheme to the bottom line of the budget.
Well, let me say a couple of things. Our population growth rate is about 1.6%. At the moment, and that's actually the average since Federation. But what we did since 6 or so months ago was actually bring down the immigration rate from a cap of 190,000 down to 160,000, and within that cap, that's the permanent migration rate, and that's the major driver of population growth in the medium term. The second step is that, I'm sorry, I think I've just been called for a division here, Peter, so I might have to come back.
That's all right. That's all right. Off you go, Minister. I don't want you to get into trouble. You'll be in all sorts of trouble.
Yeah, sorry, excuse me a second.
That's all right. Understand, completely understand. I'm one of those presenters who would have been calling his office if he wasn't down there quick, smart.